Air travel is one of the most widely used methods of transportation for people all over the world. Every day, every hour, every minute, there are planes in the sky carrying thousands of people back and forth. The truth is that flights have always been considered one of the most comfortable and functional methods of travel. Everyone thinks about that when they talk about flying. But what happens when things go wrong? Be prepared, because this time we will see the scariest things that have happened and been seen in flight. Number 7. In the year 2017, on a flight operated by Air China Airlines, something very strange happened. Something that forced the captain to return to Beijing from where he had taken off a few minutes before. This was due to an elderly lady who began to have an attack that was very difficult to explain. She began to tremble, and at one point, she collapsed. When she came to, she didn't want much help from others. She even claimed that medicine wouldn't be much help to her. She said that there were things that possessed her that were very difficult to explain, causing everything that was generated in her being, and what made the plane come back. Number 6. Dead, transported on the plane, alive? It is very common for people to transport the dead bodies of their loved ones on flights, especially when they died in a city other than their own. There are many cases of those who transport them by air. This does not really create any problem, but there have been reported cases of this that are really strange. For example, an elderly lady was found to say she was cold and felt ill. The stewardess who treated her looked for her son on the other side of the plane. When she informed him of what had taken place, the son told her that his mother had died and was being transported on the plane. There is a similar story of a man who asked the stewardess to inform his wife that he was fine. When she did so, the wife reported the same thing as in the previous case. It's a strange way to send one last message. Number 5. The Phantom Stewardess. There are people who really love their work and who enjoy it very much, so much so that they devote their whole lives to their jobs. But what happens when you still love your work after death? Could you go back to haunting the spaces where you worked in a spectral way? That is the case of a ghost flight attendant who has been seen on several flights of an airline with an unknown name. Passengers have seen her walking straight through the aisles without turning around to see anyone, still wearing her usual stewardess uniform. This clearly generates fear and uncertainty among the passengers. Those who are looking for help go to the rest of the stewardesses to tell them about the incident. They certainly know about it and have seen her in its spectral form as well. Among the other employees, she is known as a senior flight attendant. Number 4. Snakes on the plane. Sometimes fiction is capable of imitating and even surpassing reality. Surely you've heard of the movie Snakes on a Plane from 2006, starring the renowned actor Samuel L. Jackson. His fans certainly proved how much they loved the movie, but everyone knew it was a movie and nothing more. At that time, it was considered impossible for a snake to get inside a flying plane. You knew it was pure fiction. However, for better or worse, in the year 2016, this became reality, specifically on a Mexican flight from a major airline. The passengers noticed something which started to appear in the upper area of the baggage compartment. As it came down, the body of a huge green snake became more visible. When it fell to the floor of the plane, it caused a great commotion among all the passengers. There was no other option but to make an emergency landing in Mexico City. The truth is that, to this day, there is still no explanation as to how this snake got in there. Number 3. A very mysterious stink. All the scents that our sense of smell manages to perceive are always motivated by a reason, a place from which they arrive. It's not normal at all that a scent reaches our nose and we can't identify where it comes from. It gets worse when a large number of people perceive it. But not only that, it's a smell so strong and unpleasant that it chokes them. This is what happened on a flight made by JetBlue Airline, which departed from California towards Florida. At one point during the flight, a few hours after takeoff, a smell started to be noticed. Not exactly a pleasant one, but a completely disgusting one, which is why everyone described it as a stink. Strangest of all, it was so strong that it flooded the whole plane. Because of this, an emergency stop had to be made. Some had to go to the hospital, and others urgently required oxygen cylinders. What was the strangest thing? There was no way to identify where the stink was coming from. Number 2. Ghost children. After September 11, planes have TV screens in the cockpit, so pilots can monitor everything that happens in the aircraft's galleys as well. That way, supposedly, everything can be more protected and monitored. However, on a flight of a regional airline with short flights inside the country, other things were seen on the screen. This is the case of a flight captain who, from his television set, watched two small children playing. According to him, they were very close to the cockpit entrance, something that was not really safe or appropriate. Upon discussing it with the other flight attendants, the others assured him that they did not see any children. There was no one in the area he had indicated. This is the case of two ghost children who really surprised this pilot. Number 1. Gremlins. We've already talked about gremlins in real life. Not inside a plane in flight, but in another scenario in our history. More specifically, in World War II. If you haven't already watched it, we encourage you to do so. That way you can learn more about this strange case of gremlins in real life. Here, we come back to a theme which makes reality and fiction clash, enough to practically mix with one another. Although gremlins are small characters from a very well-known movie, how can we be sure that they were not inspired on real-life events which caused them to be talked about? The truth is that there are testimonies about this kind of creatures not only in the Second World War. Some claim to have seen them on plane flights as well. Not inside the plane, fortunately, but on the outside, hanging from the wings or attached to the thrusters, just like the data from the Second World War suggested. Zero Zone, the Yellow. To finish, we bring you a bonus, an extra scary story dealing with airplanes and flying. In this case, about a plane that no one wants to fly during night hours. It is the Yellow, the name given to a plane from Sterling Airlines in Denmark. Both the flight crew and the airline staff who have traveled at night in the Yellow have experienced unusual phenomena. Most commonly, they hear footsteps on the roof of the aircraft while flying at who knows how many feet in the air. As if that weren't enough, those working to clean the plane once it lands don't want to do it at night either. They claim that, if they do so at that hour, they hear very strange noises, such as the toilet flushing down by itself. There is also talk of the ghost of a woman walking down the airplane aisles. Some say that many years ago a woman died on that plane, and apparently she never left. Planes are surrounded by all sorts of mysteries. There are planes that have traveled to the future, others that have taken off on their own without a pilot, even airplanes which have landed with skeletons on board. If you want to know all these stories, here are the videos.